Let's jump right in. Have you ever wondered what's actually keeping society running fairly behind the scenes? I mean, think of democracy like this massive, incredibly complex machine. Well, in today's Explainer, we're looking directly at the blueprint for that machine. We're going to break down the actual nuts and bolts of public service, exploring those guiding principles of public interest and the civil service conduct that literally makes a functioning, fair society possible. Okay, let's dive into this structural roadmap. Today, we're covering 1. Defining the public interest. 2. The civil servant's principles. 3. The procedure of good governance. And finally, 4. Building trust and equity.
So, right off the bat, here's the central conflict of this entire system. On one side, we have collective welfare and citizen dignity. On the exact opposite side, we've got individual, group, or political interests. You see, a civil servant's job isn't just, pushing paper around a desk. It's an active, ongoing, and honestly sometimes heroic balancing act. They are constantly required to prioritize our collective welfare, our fundamental rights and dignity as citizens, while actively resisting that massive gravitational pull of political or individual greed.
All right, part 1. Defining the public interest, or the philosophical goal. So, public interest is defined formally as the collective welfare of society, prioritizing the well-being, rights, and dignity of citizens over individual, group, or political interests. But what does collective welfare actually mean for you watching this right now? Well, it basically means that when a public road is built, or a new policy is drafted, or your taxes are collected, the ultimate goal absolutely isn't to benefit some specific politician or a wealthy faction. It is to ensure that your community, your family, and your fundamental dignity as a citizen are protected and elevated. That's the real what's in it for you here. Now, what's really fascinating is how this abstract, high-level idea actually translates into concrete, everyday reality. I mean, it's all about the advancement of the common good and upholding those core constitutional values. It's the active protection of fundamental rights, especially for the most vulnerable sections of our society. But take a look at that last point, ensuring justice, equity, and efficient public service delivery. The philosophical goal literally mandates efficiency. It means getting your community's trash picked up on time, getting a permit approved fairly, and just having a system that actually works for you on a day-to-day basis. Moving on to part 2. The civil servant's principles, which we can think of as the internal ethics. So we have these 6 principles, and they are basically the load-bearing pillars of good governance. First up is constitutionalism, which is just strict adherence to the rule of law. Second is impartiality, meaning absolute neutrality, zero political bias. Third, we have transparency. Fourth is integrity, which demands the absolute total avoidance of corruption. Fifth is equity, ensuring fair treatment for everyone across the board. But I really want you to focus on that final principle for a second, responsiveness. In practical terms, this means that when you have a legitimate grievance, someone is ethically bound to actually listen to you. You're not just shouting into the void, right? But here's the catch. Internal ethics aren't quite enough on their own. They need a process. Which brings us to part 3. The procedure of good governance. The assembly instructions, if you will. Think of these as the literal steps of the job. The practical assembly manual for democracy. Step 1 is evidence-based decision-making. That means acting on cold, hard facts, not just sudden whims or feelings. Step 2 is rigorously following established rules, manuals, and due process. You absolutely don't just make it up as you go, much to the dismay of some rogue bureaucrats out there. Step 3 involves stakeholder consultation. This literally means talking to the people whose lives will actually be affected by a decision. And Step 4 ensures proper documentation and accountability. Basically, if something goes wrong, there's a clear paper trail to hold people responsible. So what actually happens when you combine those internal ethics we just talked about with these rigorous procedures? Let's look at part 4, building trust and equity, or the macro impact. You see, public interest isn't just some corporate buzzword. It is the absolute cornerstone of civil service ethics. By strictly adhering to those constitutional principles and utilizing transparent procedures, civil servants are doing 3 huge things. They ensure good governance, they build trust, and they guarantee equitable development. And trust? Trust is the vital currency of literally any functioning society. When citizens trust the system actually works. And that trust directly leads to equitable development, making sure that the rising tide of a successful society actually lifts all boats, giving everyone a fair, honest shot. As we've seen throughout this explainer, the blueprint for good governance is completely clear. The philosophical goals, the internal ethical pillars, the procedural steps, they are all explicitly laid out in the source material we've covered today. So the crucial point is, are we actually holding our public servants to it? Because a blueprint is only as effective as the builders who follow it and, the inspectors who check their work. In a functioning democracy, you are that inspector. Knowing these rules is step one. The next step is ensuring they're actually followed. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.